He brought his son to a launch event for the Mustang, but as soon as his son opened the car door to peek at the interior, a snobbish manager warned him, "Don't touch such an expensive car." His son nervously closed the door, but the manager still wouldn't let it go.
Is this your son?
Yes, it is.
Would you ask him to keep his hands off the paintwork?
The hot-tempered man first comforted his son, telling him not to be afraid, then turned to confront the manager. "The exterior looks good, but it's overcomplicated. I'd suggest downsizing the engine and adjusting the 3-gear acceleration. Shortening the wheelbase could cut half a ton of weight."
But even then, I'll still choose a Chevy Chevelle.
That's a fucking terrible car.
But this man wasn't just talk. He was the renowned professional racing driver Ken Miles. He had once driven a Ford GT40 he helped build to victory in the 24 Hours of Le Mans, defeating Ferrari, which had dominated the race for 4 years straight. In the 1960s, Ferrari was still a small workshop. Its annual production output was less than what Ford produced in a single day. Despite dominating Le Mans for 4 years, Ferrari was running out of funds and on the brink of collapse. When the arrogant Henry Ford II heard the news, he sent people to acquire Ferrari. But the insincere terms of the acquisition enraged Enzo, who erupted in curses.
Insignificanti
That's your
macchine.
big ugly factory making its ugly little cars.
Tell him he's not Henry Ford. He is Henry Ford II.
Hearing this, Henry Ford II was furious. He vowed to build the best engine and find the best driver to defeat Ferrari. His team sought out Shelby, the only American driver ever to win at Le Mans, though a heart condition had forced him into early retirement, turning him into a car designer instead. Shelby was reluctant to accept. The Le Mans circuit had no guardrails on its curves, and the race ran non-stop for 24 hours, the ultimate test of both driver skill and vehicle performance. So he thought of Ken. Though immensely talented, Ken had a fiery temper. Even after winning championship after championship in cars, he modified himself. At 45, he was still broke. Ken had promised his wife he'd quit racing and take a job at a repair shop. But just then, Shelby found him. Hearing the invitation, Ken, who had vowed never to race again, flat out refused. Shelby, however, wasn't worried. He was sure Ken would change his mind. Late that night, he took Ken to the garage and unveiled a brand new Ford race car. Looking at the car Shelby had designed, Ken's eyes were filled with longing. He took it for a high-speed run on the track. As a top-tier driver, just one lap was enough for him to spot the car's flaws.
It's awful. It doesn't track. No, the 3rd gear is too high.
Seeing Ken back in the driver's seat, Shelby knew he had accepted the invitation. When his wife asked about it, Ken tried to brush it off, but she already knew his heart. She wasn't against him returning to racing, she just wanted honesty from her husband. And this time, she insisted Shelby pay Ken properly.
It's $200 a day.
From then on, Ken tested and fine-tuned the car day and night. He first covered it with yarn tufts to study and improve airflow during motion. Then he focused on reducing weight, stripping out everything unnecessary. Finally, the engine. They used the latest aluminum cylinder heads to support maximum horsepower with minimal weight. Through Ken and Shelby's combined efforts, the racing legend the Ford GT40 was born quickly. But the day before the race, the manager Ken had once humiliated informed Shelby that Ken would not be allowed to represent Ford in the competition. Despite Shelby's fierce objections, finally, they had to compromise. Though deeply disappointed, Ken still pointed out a brake issue with the GT40 and urged the replacement driver to be careful. On race day, Ken followed the action closely, but his worst fear came true. All 3 Ford entries at Le Mans failed to last the full 24 hours, succumbing to brake failure one after another. The loss infuriated Henry Ford II, but it earned Shelby full management of the racing team, so Shelby went to Ken again. Still furious, Ken punched Shelby right in the face. The two men in their 40s wrestled like 3-year-olds. Sometimes, a fight is all it takes to resolve conflict between men. Through their relentless effort, the GT40 kept improving, but the brake issue remained unsolved. During one test drive, Ken almost died on the spot due to brake failure, yet the manager still planned to kick Ken off the team. Upon hearing this, Shelby made a bold move. When Henry Ford II came for an inspection, Shelby locked the manager in an office, then invited Ford II for a ride. He wanted this arrogant old man to accept his driver. Shelby gave him a true taste of racing speed. When it was over, Ford II sat in the car crying like a 300-pound child. Shelby told him, not everyone can handle this GT40. Only Ken can drive it perfectly. But Ford II didn't seem convinced, so Shelby bet his own company. If Ken won the Daytona race, he would race at Le Mans. If Ken lost, Shelby's company would belong to Ford. At Daytona, Ken's skillful driving put him far in the lead. But endurance racing requires driver changes. In the final hour's sprint, the manager's driver was in first place, while Ken lagged far behind. Up in the stands, the manager manager was already celebrating, but Shelby calmly walked to the pit lane and held up a sign. Ken saw it clearly. At all costs, push to 7,000 revolutions per minute and go all out. Ken stomped on the accelerator. The GT40 shot forward like a rocket, overtaking one competitor after another. On the final lap, Ken shifted and accelerated, moving into third place. Entering the last curve, he pushed past 7,000 revolutions per minute, executing an extreme cornering acceleration to overtake second place and close in on first, the manager's driver. Soon, the two cars were side by side. With the finish line approaching, the experienced Ken shifted again, braking past 7,500 revolutions per minute. The manager's driver could only watch Ken's taillights fade ahead. Ken had finally won the race. Everyone cheered for him, and Shelby finally breathed a sigh of relief. They celebrated wildly, but Ken knew this was just the beginning. Back home, he told his son he would run a flawless, perfect lap at Le Mans, one no one had ever achieved before. Soon, Le Mans race day arrived. As the flag dropped, drivers rushed to their cars, while others were already starting. Ken couldn't get his door to close. With no time to figure it out, he set off in a hurry. Right from the start, multiple cars collided and disintegrated, though Ken avoided the wrecks. The unclosable door let him fall to the back of the pack in the first lap. The red Ferrari sped past him. Seeing Ken's awkward expression, the Ferrari driver Benny sneeringly mocked him. After the first lap, Benny held the lead, while Ken pulled into the pits. Even the mechanics couldn't close the door. Henry Ford II was furious, while Enzo watched with amusement. Then someone brought out a sledgehammer and slammed the door shut with one blow. Back on the track, Ken began his comeback. Though far behind, in a 24-hour race, anything is possible if you don't give up. As a seasoned driver, Ken also had exceptional mental toughness. Under his control, the GT40 perfectly unleashed its potential. He kept overtaking cars until he reached 20th place, setting a new lap record at Le Mans in the process. But he wasn't done. On the third lap, his average speed reached 230 miles per hour, an impossible feat at the time. His relentless pace not only won applause from the crowd, but stunned the commentators off track. By dinner time, Henry Ford II had left for a fancy restaurant, but Enzo stayed trackside, standing with his team through it all. At night, already poor visibility was made worse by pouring rain. Ken's only remaining rival was Ferrari's Benny. As they battled for first place, the heavy rain made the track wet and slippery, causing the GT40's brakes to fail again. Unresponsive. By the time Ken made it to the pits, Benny had lapped him once more. But Ken didn't give up. It just meant he had to overtake Benny twice. By daylight, Ken caught up to Benny again. They raced wheel to wheel toward an approaching curve. At that speed, neither could possibly make the turn safely, yet neither would yield. It became a test of nerve. As the curve drew closer, Benny chickened out first, hitting the brakes and letting Ken pass. Ken felt no joy. This was only the first overtake. His task was to pass Benny twice, pushing relentlessly. He caught Benny again at the same spot. This time, Benny didn't yield. Both pushed their cars to the limit. It seemed the red Ferrari was slowly pulling ahead of the blue GT40. Benny looked triumphant, but the next moment, his Ferrari malfunctioned and stalled. Ken had finally defeated his last rival. All he had to do was finish, and the championship was his. But then the manager suggested to Henry Ford II that Ken slow down and wait for the other two GT40s, so all three could cross the finish line together. A perfect publicity moment for Ford. Shelby knew this was completely unreasonable and absurd, but he was powerless. He left the decision to Ken. Ken pushed everything from his mind and kept accelerating on the track, driving the car to its maximum capacity. Ken was fulfilling his promise to his son and pursuing his own ultimate dream. He pushed the car to its limits. Perfect cornering, perfect straight line acceleration, a flawless lap with no mistakes, 3 minutes 30 seconds. It was his third new lap record. Joyfully, he sang the victory chant he always shared with his son after a win. Then, he began to slow down. Ken didn't want to put Shelby in a difficult position. Shelby had sacrificed too much for him to race, so all three cars crossed the finish line together as planned. But when Ken opened his door, ready to be crowned champion, he saw everyone swarming around another Ford driver, Mike. It turned out both he and Shelby had been tricked, because Mike started farther back. His greater total distance made him the official winner. Flowers and applause passed him by. Only Enzo knew who the true champion was and who truly deserved respect. He tipped his hat, the highest mark of respect one man can give another. Shelby was consumed with guilt. He believed he had cost Ken the triple crown. But Ken quickly composed himself. For him, his dream was already fulfilled. He had not only defeated Ferrari, but surpassed his own limits. Walking away from the noisy crowd, the two close friends stood side by side, heart to heart, discussing how to further improve the car. But fate often moves in unpredictable ways. During a later test run, the GT40's brakes failed once more. This time, Ken wasn't so lucky. His life ended at dusk that day, and the legend of a racing king quietly faded into the wind. Some battles aren't fought for victory. They're fought to prove one lived with burning passion. And true victory in life is never just about scores on a board. It lies in every heartbeat given fully to a purpose.